Hi, I'm Craig Messer, Greaco Western Tech Service. What I'm going to show you how to do is how to make your own pour uh, nozzle, if you say, or injection tip for a fusion air purge uh, Greaco gun. The first thing I want to do is I want to show you a few parts of the pour tip right now that Greaco sells, part number 248528. This pour kit comes with this little white Teflon um, piece that goes on top of your chamber, whether it's a flat chamber or a round chamber. This one right here is for a round chamber. The one for the flat chamber is a little bit smaller and thinner. But anyway, so it comes with this. It also comes with this air cap, and it comes with I don't know, 18 inches of this hose. It's a 1/4 inch inside diameter hose. The problem when we use this hose to pour in a cavity or CMU block is that you want the chemical to go to the bottom of the cavity. Well, when you put this hose on, and I split it here just so I can put it on and off easier. So when you put this hose on, you can get it to bend, and you can get it to kind of form in that downward position. Now, when you pull the trigger and you put hot chemical through here, that warms this up and it's under pressure, so it tends to straighten back out and shoot towards the back of the cavity. So, not exactly what we want to do. We want to get that chemical to the bottom of the cavity so it can all get to the bottom and it can come rising up the bay, whether it be a retro or CMU block. The other thing that kind of sucks about this particular system is that you have a very small hole in the front of your mixing chamber, and you have a little bit bigger hole on the front of your pour cap, and you have an even bigger hole in your hose. So the problem with this is that you don't have enough air volume here to clean this hose out. So it constantly has more and more residual chemical left in it, which builds up more and more and more and more. And next thing you know, when you're pulling the trigger and injecting, all of a sudden, boom, the hose blows right off, and you blow foam all over the outside of the hole, and you got a mess everywhere, and it just doesn't work that great, which made me think of trying to figure out a different way to use this Greaco Profil system. So what I did here is I used the extension tip air cap, which is a Greaco part. That's the air cap is 248020. Got my notes sitting beside me here with the part number. So this air cap here is actually made for an extension tip. And what you can do is you can take an extension tip, put it inside here, and that'll give you a pattern out there at 8 feet or 12 foot, depending on which one you get. The 1 inch long one is the one for 12 foot, and the 1/2 inch long one is for an 8 foot extension. And then it's a different extension tip per chamber. So it goes with 01, 02, 03. It's size to that chamber. So if you want an extension tip for an 01, you got to buy that extension tip for an 01. If you want one for an 02, you got to buy one for an 02. They're relatively cheap. I think the extension tip might be between 50 and 70 bucks. So not too bad. But the 248020, which is this air cap part number, comes with just the air cap. It does not come with the white Teflon rings. So we will need these white Teflon rings also. The part number for them white Teflon rings is 248019, and that's a 5-pack. And the price on that is $61.50. The price on this air cap is $70.75. So the price on this on the pour kit is 160 bucks, which it has its place and it works. We use it a lot for doing new construction, where you can just pop this tip right through the membrane and inject on behind the membrane for new construction. Works great for that. So what I want to show you here is what I did with this copper tubing. So what I did with this copper tubing, it's 3/16 copper tubing. This one here has been used the last 2 days. We did a block fill job with it, and we did a retro job with it, and we're still using it. Never had to clean it out. It always stays clean. The inside diameter hole on this is a lot smaller, you see. So you go from this big hole to the small hole. So the small hole has enough air coming out of the chamber to clean this pipe out, rather than having this big hole that gets clogged up and blows off and everything else, and you got to change them out a lot. So I mean, this thing slides right inside the other one, that the other hose. So what I did is I took this little piece of 3/16 copper tubing, which is pretty durable, pretty tough to bend. I mean, you can bend it, but you got to work at it. So what I did is I took that air cap, which has a 3/16 hole in the middle of it. So I can slide this through the front of that air cap. Okay, and that's here. Tubing is flared on the back side. So I can pull that in, which hangs onto it. That flare hangs onto it. Then I can insert my white Teflon ring and push that in there and screw it onto the mixing chamber, and I can use this into the wall cavity, so I know the chemical's going straight down. It's a lot easier to get in and out of the holes that you have drilled because it's a lot smaller, and it doesn't fill up with foam. So basically all you got to do is take yourself and get yourself a piece of 4-inch copper tubing, 3/16 copper tubing. You can buy it by the foot at some hardware stores. You can buy it by the roll. By the foot, it's about $2 a foot at hardware stores, somewhere give or take, depending on where you're at and how much they want to charge you, I guess. So, but relatively cheap. You're probably better off just buying a whole roll of it, and you'll be good forever. So all we're going to do is I'm going to take another piece of this copper tubing that hasn't been flared, and you're going to need a flaring tool, which this is half of the flaring tool, and this just clamps onto the pipe like so, and you want to stick about probably about an 1/8 inch out of the tool, and you want to clamp it down. And you got to clamp down both ends. Once I got her clamped down, all I got to do is take my flaring tool here, the other half of it, center it on the hole on the copper tubing, and now I can flare that piece of copper, which is really pretty simple. I like to tighten it up and loosen it and tighten it and loosen it, and then I'll feel it kind of get snug, and that's where I stop. You can over flare them, and it'll thin out the sidewall of that copper pipe dramatically, which will cause it to be very thin and not as tough. So you want to make sure not to do that. And if you do, oh well, big deal. I mean, all you got to do is take your little pipe cutter, which I got this little travel size guy because I kick it with me everywhere I go. So all you got to do is take that and cut it off and restart. Or maybe if you didn't do it enough, you can stick it back in there and flare it a little bit more. But it's always best not to overdo it. Now what I can do with this is I can slide it inside this cap, slide it right up tight, and I got myself a pour tip that actually pours instead of shoots straight back in the cavity and doesn't bend around the corner. So when we're pouring, we're trying to pour behind something, or or down into something, and so this works way better. So all I gotta do is take my white Teflon ring, shove it in the air cap, and thread it on the gun, and I'll be good. Now when you go to put this on the gun, you're going to have to be careful because you got to tighten this down tight. So when you're doing that, you're going to twist the mixing chamber. So when you have to do this, you have to have the chemicals turned off on the gun. The chemicals have to be turned off, and all the pressure has to be released off the head of the gun. So shut the chemicals off at the gun. Take the safety off and aim into a trash can and just purge out that extra pressure that's inside the head of the gun. Even if you pressure relief at the machine or whatnot, you're still going to want to purge the head of the gun out because the heat alone can create pressure in the head of the gun. So you always want to, as soon as you're going to thread this thing on and you got it about on, you want to take the safety off, make sure the chemicals are off, take the safety off, pull the trigger in the trash can, make sure there's no pressure on the head of the gun at all, and then you want to thread this on the head of the gun and take a pliers and tighten it down good and tight. And then once you're done tightening it down, you want to take the safety back off the gun and pull the trigger a couple more times to make sure it's in good seat with the side seal mixing chamber, and then you can go about your way. But that's about all there is to it. It works great. This tube here is completely wide open yet. I could use it on many more jobs. And I don't have to play with this game here anymore. So also it takes a lot smaller hole. If you're drilling in a sheetrock, you can get by with a smaller hole rather than a great big, you know, 1/2-inch hole to try and get this 3/8 outside diameter tubing out in and out of the cavity. So that's pretty much the gist of it. Hopefully this helps you out, and take care.